beautiful light and iridescence. Oh, do you have the roller again? Okay, perfect. So the roller decided to sit for a little bit, if we can find him, and then the starling has joined just to the back there. We've had a lot of bird activity and bird interaction today, especially because it's cooler. A lot of insects are out and about, so most of the birds we've been seeing are birds that eat insects. Our European rollers we were trying to find you earlier to show you just did not want to be seen, as that fork-tailed drongo kept chasing them and then also making their alarm call, mimicking their alarm call at the same time. So this roller that we're looking at now, the area where we are, we do know that there's a nest site near here. They nest inside of holes in trees. So we see him or her, I mean, they look the same quite often. That starling in the background has just dived down, obviously seen some insects it wants to pick up off the ground, and I can see that the roller is busy checking from side to see if anything tasty is about. Anna-Marie, you're curious to know if any bird species eat elephant dung. Anna-Marie, the closest I can think of is hornbills. The red hornbill and the yellow-billed hornbill and the gray hornbill like to pick through elephant dung. Elephants only digest roughly about 25% of what they eat. So they'll pick through for bits of fruit, bits of seeds, and then any insects that are inside something like elephant dung, they'll definitely dig through and pick them out to eat them. It's a good question. Our roller is cocking his head side to side, just checking. There might be some insects on the ground that it's having a look at. That's too cool right now for sort of butterflies and moths. Ooh, but I do see something I've been wanting to show you. It's not open. It's going to be, since it's going to be on the side of the road, and next to those purple flowers, just the little orange ones there. Can I stop here? Is that okay? Or am I too close? See how they're closed up, those little orange ones. We were talking about lion's eye flowers yesterday morning, and they're not open because the sun's not out, but that's the orange color that I was mentioning, and it's one of the flowers that we are going to see for longer than a week or two. So when the sun comes out, they'll completely open up, and then they'll enjoy that sunshine, and then when it's cool like this or nighttime, they close their petals. So when their petals are closed like this, there is no pollination that occurs. When they open and they show the bright yellow center, then insects will come to pollinate. Now it's interesting because a lot of the insects that are out and about right now currently are not necessarily insects that are pollinating insects. The pollinating insects will come out again when it's a little bit sunnier and a little bit warmer, but not too hot. If it's too hot, it's also difficult for them to move around. So the flowers opening up and the insect movements coincide with each other. And that orange, I don't know what, it's like an electric, what's the colors? I was a little kid in the 90s and we used to have, I'm losing it. We had like electric blue and fuchsia pink and that orange, day glow, neon colors. That's what I'm looking for. Everything was day glow when I was a little kid. Day glow everything. So that's a day glow orange. Okay. Well, let's go check twin dams again. Maybe our cheeky little hippos inside twin dams. And we will have a look. Ooh, TA, you're curious to know which bird do I find the prettiest. TA, one of the prettiest birds that I can think of is the African green pigeon we saw yesterday morning nesting. That was super exciting. Another beautiful bird is a woodland kingfisher, and we've got a few displaying just up on the tree here. There's actually 3 of them inside this tree, and I'll just be quiet for a moment so you can hear. Can you hear that choo-choo at the background? Since the 2 on the bottom right-hand side seem to be displaying a little bit more than that top one. basically displaying and vying for affection of females. There's that display that we talked about with the wings opening, and notice that they open the wings and then turn, so they're flashing the white of their stomach and then that azure sort of turquoise blue of the backside of their wings. The colorations are a little bit harder to see at the moment just because of the blown out sky, but we just might get a little bit of action with these woodland kingfisher. Maybe they start hunting the insects that they love so much, or maybe we get a little interaction between males vying for a female, or they might just keep turning their wings and jumping around and showing their beautiful colors for us. We are going to have to wait and see. I have a feeling that we're going to get a lot of the display. I watched two chasing each other around the other day. It was quite fantastic. Please don't go anywhere. We're going to go for a very short break. Stay with us to see what happens with our woodland kingfisher. All right, so those of you that are still watching with us on the internet, thank you again so much for carrying on with our practice of our advertisement breaks. I know it's a little bit funny, everyone's thinking, oh my goodness, where are we going? But we're still here. And these two have decided, after I've described all the different things that they could possibly do that would be exciting, they've decided not to do any of them and to just sit there. It's possibly because the one in the background is going on and on and on and on and on, and maybe they're just waiting for a gap, or possibly it's just two that have found each other and they don't feel the need to have to display anymore because the third one has flown off. That's also entirely a possibility. Now the sun is coming out a wee bit, so we might get a little bit better coloration. Just tiny, still a little bit overcast. It definitely didn't rain on us, but it might have rained somewhere else for another property. I know we've done well so far, relatively well with our rain this season, but a friend of mine that's working in the Timbavati, I don't think they've done as well, and that's been a reoccurring theme over the past couple of rainy seasons. They're not doing as well as other places. So hopefully the rain gods will come and Mujaji will be kind to everybody. Mujaji is the rain queen. She's located up in Mahobos Kloof, I believe. While we are busy searching and thinking about rain, let's head on over to Scott and see what he's up to.
We're still just cruising around, and we have found a specimen of a tick here. Now what I'm going to have to do is just hold the piece of grass so it doesn't blow too much in the wind. Initially I'm going to make it worse than... There we go. Now, how beautiful are the colors? I'm going to try and swivel it around as gently as possible and hold it as still as possible. And you'll possibly notice that it's got 8 legs, not 6, which indicates that it's an arachnid. And I've just got some useful information from Steph, who's busy watching. Thanks, Steph. This is apparently a male. Not only is he a male, he is a male Rhino Tick. So I didn't know that, and they've got such beautiful markings, and they are massive. So possibly, as their name suggests, their large body as well as large mouth parts allow them to latch onto their large host, the white rhinoceros, which will be the main rhino that they see here in this area, although you do get some black rhino that occasionally move through this area of the Greater Kruger National Park. And I'm told a lot of you are saying yuck. I'm not too sure why. It smells okay, and it looks quite pretty to me, but I guess it may be a little bit yucky if it latches onto you and starts sucking your blood. So I'll guess that's what you guys are thinking about. Awesome. Interestingly, this pathway that we're walking along, Herbie tells me, is one of the pathways that one of the Birmingham males likes to use. And what's interesting is whether it's a lion or a rhino walking down this path, the ticks put themselves in opportune positions where they can just latch onto their prey. Well, not their prey, their hosts. And here's another one. So how cool is that? and I don't know if they're clever enough to be able to deduce that this is actually a pathway that they've positioned themselves on. It would be incredible if they are clever enough to do that, or if simply they just elevate themselves on blades of grass. But when I look around, I don't see any that are off the path. So maybe they are clever enough to work out a pathway, maybe from the scents from many animals walking along here. And it's a useful thing to remember when, especially for somebody like me moving back into an area like this, to be able to spend somebody like Herbert, who's got lots of local knowledge and who now says to me, if you find tracks of a male lion around Zoe's junction with Balanites, come and check this area because there's a strong likelihood that it'll move down here. So there's some examples of how local knowledge of a wilderness area can really help you when tracking animals. Good stuff. It seems like Tristan's managed to resolve whatever issues he was having with his camera, so we'll send you back to him to see what he's getting up to.
We have indeed. We had a few little technical glitches, but it's all sorted now, and we've got some beautiful yellow-fronted canaries that are sitting, having a bit of a grooming session. They just went down to Gari Dam for a drink and maybe a little wash, and now they've all come up and they're just having a little slight groom before I think everybody flies away and carries on their day of finding little seeds. But you can see the one in the front is nice and brightly coloured. It's got its beautiful yellow front, as the name suggests, and then they've got those yellow supercilium over the eye and yellow around the sort of beak area, and that's how you can ID them. It's a very common canary that we get in this particular area. We see them all the time, all over the place. Now you can also hear a crested barbet that is making a lot of noise and hasn't actually kept quiet at all. So that's that sound you hear in the background. There we go. It was sitting here with the canaries, but then it flew away, as was a Cape turtle dove as well. Tina, no, I've never seen a Senegal parrot. We don't get them here in South Africa, so unfortunately I haven't. We actually don't even know what a Senegal parrot looks like, but I would imagine it will be beautiful, and most of the parrots are. So only here in this particular section of South Africa, we only get... Oh, can you get that bird on the top of the jackalberry there for me, Ferg? We only get the brown-headed parrots in this particular area, but there's a beautiful violet-backed starling. No, down. That's the bulbul, is it? Or is that the starling? No, that's the starling. So there we go. There's a violet-backed... Is that the violet-backed starling? It is, yes. Sorry, I can't see nicely. There's lots of glare. But violet-backed starlings are one of the most beautiful birds that we get out here. Unfortunately, there's no sun today, so the actual coloration is not coming out as nicely as it normally would. But they have this iridescent yellow on the back. There's a woodland kingfisher as well. So Gari Dam is heaving with birds this morning. It's a great place sometimes just to stop and look around. Sometimes you can find some amazing birds when you sit there. But back to our parrots. Unfortunately, we only have the brown-headed parrots and then the mayor's parrot that occurs, and grey-headed parrot right in the northern parts of Kruger if we're lucky. So those are the only ones, but no Senegal parrots in this particular area. Right, well, I'm going to continue looking for more little feathered friends around Gari Dam because it seems to be a busy little place. While we do that, let's go back across to Noelle, who I think has also been doing a spot of birding this morning, and I wonder if she's had any signs for those lions she was tracking early on.
Tristan, no signs of the lions. They're still in Biffleshoek, sadly. We're just sitting here at Treehouse Dam because our hippo that decided to come and make this his territory about a week or so ago is just sticking his nose up every now and then from the water itself. And what's really interesting is the angle that we're at. When he lifts his nose up, you can actually see inside those nostrils quite nicely. So I'm just waiting to see if he will... Ah, there we go. And then down again. So we're just busy. Oh, apparently this is the same hippo you saw with Scott earlier on foot. Very, very interesting. Yesterday, I say. The other day when we were here, he was out of the water and was not too excited with us being here. And then today, I think the same sort of thing. It's also a little bit windy for him. And then around the dam itself, it's actually fairly quiet. We've got some beautiful blue waxbills just on the ground. I'll lean back for you, Sens. You see where the dead branches are just here? If we go straight in onto the ground, there we go. Keep going in. Oh, there they fly. Perfect. Little blue waxbills. I'm actually surprised I haven't seen any common waxbills yet this season here at Djuma. common waxbills are actually not that common, funnily enough. They're a little bit more brown with a bit more orange. These blue waxbills have that gorgeous blue coloration underneath. They're busy picking up little insects, as we were talking about earlier with a lot of our birds. And then that dead, gnarly tree that they keep jumping up and down from, that would be a type of tree that they would put their tiny little nests in. I have been looking for a waxbill nest to show you because I've mentioned it a few times, and unfortunately I have not found one to show you how intricately they make them. Now I think our little hippo nose might poke back up in just a second. You can just see little bits of bubbles and whatnot coming up every now and then. And I'm also just amazed at how deep Treehouse Dam is here. So I mean, that hippo's quite large, and unless he wants to poke up his nose, we don't see him at all. So I'm guessing that that water probably goes up to my shoulders, when as before I was thinking it might only go up to my waist. And I'm 5'9" in imperial and about 1.72 in metric. So that's quite deep. All right, let's head on back to Tristan and see what he has for our feathered friends that side.
Well, we have a squirrel that is trying to beat Noel in height at this stage. It was standing on its back legs and standing to show us how tall it was. And there's actually 4 of them that are chasing each other around all over the place. It's actually quite fun to watch them. It's almost like our impalas from earlier. They're up and down and running around all over the place, going after one another. So I'm not sure if it's 2 different pairs that are just having a little territorial dispute, or if it's maybe a family, a female and a male with their offspring. I'm not 100% sure. The other 3 have run off to the left, and it's left this one all by itself, who's now seeked some refuge in this small tree. Oh, little grooming of the face. How cute is that? Don't punch yourself in the face, that's not ideal. It almost looks as though it's having a fight with itself. And there we go, down it goes, and bounding along off towards the others that are down in that direction as well. Very cute to see though. I like watching these squirrels. They sometimes can be quite fun animals when they, particularly when they're in groups together. They chase each other around and they have these kind of little games that they play. Always entertaining watching them. Right, no more birds that we really could find at Gowrie Dam. There was a sandpiper, a wood sandpiper that was there, but that has been there for the last few weeks. And then there was the obligatory hardy-dar ibis and Egyptian goose that are always around these areas. So we're just now trying to see what else we can find. I'm going to go and check along Ingwe Alley and along those mud wallows places, and look, the mud wallows tend to have some really nice little things that hang around them. You can often find cool insects around there and all kinds of birds, and so it's a wonderful place just to have a little loop around. Now unfortunately it sounds like the gremlins are invading, so before they do, let's quickly jump across to Scotty D.
When you're done. So, sorry about the little tech issues on Tristan's vehicle there, but it couldn't have happened at a better time. I've just been investigating this bush for any little interesting critters, one of which just flew away. I'm not too sure what it was. It was a kind of moth-like insect with black wings with bright yellow dots on it. Really pretty little insect. And it really is fascinating once you actually just stop and take a closer look at your surroundings. All of a sudden you start noticing that there's so many little and interesting critters wriggling about. And Kirsty, who's directing the show, said it looked kind of like a blister beetle. And yes, it certainly did look like a blister beetle. There's quite a few bugs with black and yellow dots. And that is just what a blister beetle looks like. But it wasn't in fact one. It was slightly smaller, but well spotted, Kirsty. That's initially actually what I thought it was. Let's see if we can find anything else. It's tricky in these windy conditions because all the trees are blowing and it's hard to pick up the movements of any little insects. But that is our plan for the rest of the drive. We're going to slowly make our way through the quarantine clearings looking for any little critters. And I saw a robber fly earlier this morning. I've only seen one so far on the bushwalks. They're really cool flies, predatory flies. So a lot of us as humans kind of despise flies, but they're hugely important on our planet, and some of them are actually doing a great job in assisting us with getting rid of other pests, including other species of flies. So not all flies are irritating and annoying, and sadly for us, whether you like it or not, all of them are hugely useful and important for helping break down and decompose matter like sewage, as well as old carcasses and things that generally us as humans don't want to have anything to do with. So thankfully they're there to fulfill those roles. Hopefully we will be able to find you a robber fly. Hi James, you are wondering about flowers and whether there are any nocturnal flowers that blossom after dark on Djuma. And it's a good question that I do not know the answer to. I'm guessing there could be one or two, but of course it's going to be a very unique flower. Most flowers will, if anything, open during the day and close during the night, or be open permanently, and a lot of them will actually follow the sun. So it would be surprising if there are a bunch of kind of nocturnal flowers, but I'm not too sure. I haven't come across any. Cool, well, we're going to continue to scour the undergrowth here for any little bugs, and while we do that we'll be sending you to Noel, who seems to be scouring the roads for any action along them.
I am scouring the roads, Scott, I'm scouring, and there are nocturnal flowers. Baobab flowers open up at night to be pollinated by bat species, and of course I got so excited to answer this question, and now the bat species is escaping my name. I believe, Peters, something with a Peters in it, if I'm remembering correctly. Now I've got homework again I've given to myself. They open up and the bats come and pollinate them. It's super interesting. We're a little bit far south for baobabs here. Baobabs occur a little bit more north of us. One of the epic trips I desperately want to do is I want to go to Madagascar and see the alley of the baobabs there. It would be so incredible. But Scott, you're correct. I also don't go walking around at night, but I do find that interesting. Also, I have seen the flowers of sausage trees still open at night and also being pollinated by bats then. Just as an interesting thought and a side note. And the only sausage tree I've seen on Djuma is that funny little sausage tree that we talked about with VM and I. When did Vildy and I see that? When we were having all that rain a little while ago. And I actually think, if I'm remembering correctly, I might be coming up towards our little sausage tree that has never had flowers. And my whole thought behind that is because there are no other sausage trees around for there to be any sort of cross-pollination. And I'm right. I have not completely lost my mind. Our little neutered sausage tree is just here up at our sort of 10 o'clock. With those bright green leaves. There we go. And sort of smooth grayish bark. Now, all over parts of Africa, that big one there, all over parts of Africa, sausage trees are extremely important for bird species and mammal species alike. Mammals like impala will eat the flowers, and the fruits are eaten by hippos, and as well as elephants and giraffes when they're a little bit more fresh. I love sausage trees. I'm so sad our sausage tree doesn't have flowers. Ooh, Nancy, super good question. Is the wild jasmine nocturnal? So, Nancy, what I'm thinking about now, I'm going through my head about all the times I've been driving at night and has it still been out. And Nancy, as far as I know, that flower for the wild jasmine also stays open at night. You smell it quite a bit. Yes, that's a good point. I like that point. Now, Nancy, I'm curious to know, are you asking because does jasmine in other places where jasmine grows, does it stay open at night? I would assume yes, if it does here, but Africa is its own special place, so you never know. Good one. Ooh, we're getting some good things here. So now, my question about all these nocturnal flowers is, with something like the jasmine, as far as I know, it's pollinated mostly by insects, and I wonder if maybe the insects that are pollinating it are crepuscular type insects? Question? Oh, Becca, you're curious to know where bats are during the day. Becca, bats roost during the day. They roost sometimes in trees, sometimes in eaves under houses, sometimes in caves. I'm trying to think where else. Under sort of rocky outcrops, they'll nest in there. There was a tree, I cannot think of which tree it was because this was sort of about 10 years ago, where it had a very, very thick canopy, and if you looked very closely, you could see the bats up there. It's probably something like a jackalberry tree, if I'm remembering correctly, but don't hold me to that. Very interesting question. All right, so Tristan's also having a wee bit of a bumble, so let's head over to him. Maybe he has better luck with his bumble than we do.
Well, not really, although I have found a special creature. It does roam around on Djuma twice during the day, and it goes out for this sort of 3-hour extended period of walking and running and various other things and driving, and it's just up ahead here. It's very fresh tracks that I've found. There it goes. You can see it just disappearing through the distance in the bushes there. It's little white antenna that gives it away, so Noel is driving just there. It should pop out on the other side of the termite mound if it goes according to plan. No, it's not. Hard to spot, exactly, Ferg. They are difficult creatures to find, and so we shall try and forge forward and catch up with this creature so that we can show you all it's moving in its natural habitat and going about its business for the morning. Although I feel like it's on the hunt now, and it's maybe looking for food, maybe breakfast time. It's the right time of day for this particular animal to start feeding, so it might be worth following to see how it approaches the breakfast run and whether or not it has a stalking technique or if it's just the brash kind of wild dog way where it just runs in and chases whatever it needs and grabs it. But I see it just disappearing around the corner again, so we'll try and just get a little bit further forward so that we can see it. It's about to go access a big open area, and it's a very wily one, this one. There it is. There it goes. Look, there it is. It's quickly disappearing again. We're going to have to try and catch up once more. This is a wily creature of note. It's harder to find than a leopard, I tell you. We're going to have to try and speed up our approach a little bit, and maybe we'll get lucky and find it. It seems as though it doesn't want to be seen this morning. It seems as though it's trying to get away from us a little bit, but we will find it. Don't worry. We are people of perseverance, aren't we, Ferg? Exactly, we are. There's some impalas. Maybe they've been chased and stalked by this individual. Little impala lamb looking a bit bewildered by this whole process. There we go. There it is through the bushes. You see it's looking at the impala. It's stalking them, Ferg. Look, there we go. There's its front section. Sometimes it likes to just roll forward a little bit and it'll watch what's going on. Inside there, hidden amongst the trees, is the person that operates such things, and they like to camouflage. It's very much like a leopard in the way it's moving about today. It's like to use its camouflage to try and kind of get along, and there we go. There's the camouflage. It's busy going along, and the impalas, I'm sure, are going to be very upset by all of this shortly and are going to start alarm calling as Noel creeps through. There they go. They're all running away. But there we go. That is our find of the morning, I would say. We've had leopard cubs, we've had hyenas, but, well, that was probably the most difficult of all of them to catch up with and find. Yeah, see, it's now started its engine, so it must be going off now in hunt of something else. Impalas are not preferred breakfast material, apparently, so we're going to go and see what else they can find. Now, somebody who's not in this area and seems to have found his own way around is Scotty D, and he's looking at something in a tree, and I wonder what it is.
Yes, we thought we would give you guys a little bit of an update on the marula fruits and their progression of ripening as well as their progression of growth. Because this morning we did come across some elephant dung, the first elephant dung that Herbie has seen with marula fruits in it. And what we found was some leftover seeds, kind of like this. This is one from last year though, and unlike the one we found a little bit earlier, all the flesh has been gleaned off by various little insects and left very clear cavities as to where the delicious and nutritious oily nut that you can harvest from these marula nuts is found. So there's 2 caps that cover each of these holes. It's very difficult to actually remove those caps without stabbing yourself. This is a pretty lilac-breasted rollis feather that we found along the way. How cool is that? Incredible colors. Must I keep swiveling?
Yeah.
Beautiful. And then another thing is what we can see and what you can be updated about, the size of the marula fruits at the moment. You can see this one, the seed, is the same size as this entire fruit, which gives you an idea of how much larger the fruit is going to have to get before it is in fact ripe. So I'd say it's kind of halfway there. And what's further interesting, I find, is that you get male and female trees. So this is a lady, she is bearing the fruits, and behind us, over here, we have what could be her boyfriend or husband, and there are no fruits on this tree. So that's something quite interesting that I find, that not all marula trees that you come across will bear fruits, and that goes for a lot of the trees that we get out here. Very, very wonderful. It's been so great being back out on foot in this wonderful, wonderful wilderness area and having you guys along for the journey. We've got an exciting few weeks coming up ahead when hopefully the other bushwalk backpack gets fixed up, and then Steph will also be out, Tristan and Noel on the vehicles, as well as the 3 vehicles up in the mire. So we're going to have some exciting drives over the coming weeks with multiple feeds. Sebastian's going to be flying a drone around. James is going to have the rover out and about. So really looking forward to the next few weeks. So that's something that you should too look forward to. Very good. We're going to send you back to Noel.
It is an exciting few weeks, Scotty D, that is for sure. It's so nice to have everybody around and lots of different perspectives and views, all in our small little Djuma space. It's super fun. I have managed to find a lion's eye that is open. So the sun has just peeked through the clouds, and here we go. You can see that bright orange color and then a little bit of a yellow in the center. This one's looking a little bit beraggled. I think it needs a bit more sun than what we've seen thus far. So hopefully during the day it will get everything that it needs nourishment-wise with the photosynthesis through the leaves. Dynamite Grave, you're curious to know if there's any invasive species on the reserve. There are. There is a lantana species, also known, it's not, we have a potato bush that's meant to be here that has a certain smell, and then this one's a creeper. It has a palmate leaf, a 5-digit leaf, and it has these sort of purplish red berries, but I haven't actually seen much of it here yet. I'll keep an eye out. We removed that one. Eucalyptus trees would have been removed already. Most jacaranda trees would have been removed already. And then we get a little plant, Solanum penniformes, deadly nightshade. That's what the name I was looking for. That we had briefly earlier at the other lion's eye we're looking at with a very purple flower, and then yellow in the center there. That's also an invasive species. And then the beautiful red Mexican zinnia, Zinnia peruviana, is also an alien invasive. The solanum and the zinnia, there's not much risk in them. We don't really remove them. Jacaranda trees have been removed for the most part, unless you're in areas like Pretoria or out in some of the villages. They're still there. They flower really beautifully and purple. And then the eucalyptus trees, they take up about 250 gallons of water per day per tree. So we've tried very hard to remove those. We are a water conserved area, so it's important that we get rid of them. All right, well, it's my time's up for today. Let's head back to Tristan. He said hello this morning, and he also wants to say goodbye.
I will indeed, but I've got others who also want to say goodbye. Don't you guys go anywhere. I found all of our team members today.
Hello.
Bye, Scotty. Bye, Herbie.
Thanks for joining. Bye-bye. Here are the others.
There are the others. Goodbye. There's Darby even on camera. The dish hasn't been on camera in a while. There we go. There's Darby having a little dance. Excellent. Well done. Well done, gentlemen. There we go. So the dish is back on Djuma, and I'm sure many fans will be happy to see his little dance as he's kind of mobilizing his way back to camp for breakfast. So we've managed to catch up with both our teams. Seems as though everyone ended up on quarantine at a very similar point in time, which I suppose is what happens when it's quite a sort of end to our drive. What are those up there? There's a woodland kingfisher, but there's some other little birds that are also bouncing around in amongst all of them. There's some... there's the woodland kingfisher. Now, woodland, not woodland, sorry. And there's sunbirds. Now, which sunbirds are they? It looks like a Mariko sunbird. Difficult to tell, though, against this white light. I can't see, that's the female there, by the looks of it. No, that's the Mariko. So you can see a green head with the dark body is what I would call it. And we do get purple banded here sometimes, which is a very rare thing, but most of the time we get Mariko sunbirds. So that's nice to see. It's always a good bird to have, especially when you know that there's a few flowers around. You tend to see them coming out a little bit more, so nice to have. Now, of course, we are right back at camp. We are within 1 minute of camp, but so we're not going to drive any further forward because we do need to say goodbye to you guys. It is that time of the day. It's been really, from our side, a wonderful morning. Ferg and I have thoroughly enjoyed ourselves. Being able to find Tundi and the cub is just the best welcome back to work that I could have ever asked for, and so it's going to be such a wonderful period, hopefully, going forward as we get to know this little one and watch it grow up and see how Tundi does as a mother and whether she follows in her mother's footsteps herself. But for myself, Scott, Noel, and all the FC directors and Steph, it's been a pleasure. We'll see you all this afternoon on the Sunset Safari.